Hi, my name is Bowen. Today, I want to show you why prices in China are so cheap through a day in the life of an ordinary Chinese person. First, I'm heading out to the city center today. I live in Chengdu, China. Because the income level in this city isn't very high, the average is about 4,600 RMB, which is around $682 at the current exchange rate. I live in the suburbs around Chengdu. It's about 40 kilometers away from the studio where I work, and my daily commute takes an hour.
检测到温度高于25摄氏度，建议开启快速凉手模式。
監視へドリフトの気配を感じながら、どうぞお気をつけ。
The weather today isn't too hot, with a feels-like temperature of around 27 degrees Celsius, but it still feels really stuffy in the car. Chengdu is located in the western part of the Sichuan Basin. This area is a plain, so the terrain is very flat. It's surrounded by high mountain ranges to the west and north, and the lower Longquan Mountains to the east. Because of this, the humidity here is very high, and it gets especially muggy in the summer.
Start navigation. AMP is continuously navigating for you. About to turn right at the end of road.
This BBC podcast is supported by ads outside the UK.
Olen kuvanveistäjä Felix Nylund vuosia sitten suunnitteli 3 sepän patsasta.
I usually turn on the AC, even though I prefer natural breezes. It makes me feel closer to nature. About an hour later, we arrived at our destination. The newer buildings in the city have underground parking, while many older neighborhoods don't, so you have to park on the crowded street level. First, I'm going to grab my package for today. This is a microphone I bought on a second-hand platform, the Shure NV7 Plus. It's a dynamic microphone. As far as I know, it retails for about $299 US in the US, but I snagged it for around $126. Even though it's used, I think this has a lot to do with China's purchasing power. Although we often hear online about the strong purchasing power of the RMB, that's strictly from a consumer's perspective. In China, the delivery fee for a cup of milk tea is cheaper than the milk tea itself, which only proves that China is truly a consumer's paradise. For 50 cents, you can have someone deliver milk tea right to your door. For $3, you can hire a strong, young worker to run errands for you. For $10, you can have someone carry hundreds of pounds of cement upstairs. For $20, you can hire someone to do a 3-hour deep cleaning of your house or get a 1-hour deep tissue massage. However, the strong purchasing power we perceive doesn't actually come from the currency itself, but from the extreme cheapness of local labor. For the laborers living here, this is practically a nightmare. Cheap prices often mean that our income as laborers is incredibly low.
This is why, even though prices are already so cheap, we still never seem to have enough money each month, because the income level is just that low. On top of that, Chinese society is intensely competitive, what we call involution.
Every industry pushes service prices down to the absolute minimum. When college students graduate, it's hard to find a suitable job, so they are forced to sell their cheap labor by delivering food. Now I'm going to check out my workplace. Lately, we've been live streaming sales of matsutake mushrooms. These mushrooms only grow in areas above 3,000 meters in altitude and require strict freshness preservation. So the boss had to rent a massive cold storage room. Can you imagine how much a cold storage room this big costs for a month? Take a guess. The answer is $667 a month. For this season, the boss only needs to rent it for 2 months, because matsutake is only produced in July, August, and September each year. They only do business for these 2 months out of the year, and the rest of the time they can relax or run other businesses. Remember I mentioned earlier that the average salary in Chengdu is only $682? That's right. Renting this place for 1 month costs about a month's salary. For ordinary people, starting a business is extremely hard. And that's just the cost of renting the space. For an ordinary person living locally, it's very difficult to build a business entirely on your own. But for capital, China's supply chain is a huge advantage. For example, this cold storage has a lot of frozen goods from the Chinese e-commerce company JD.com.
Later.
Time flies, and it's already evening. I have a habit of taking a walk after dinner. I think this is also why I decided to do YouTube. Even just earning YouTube ad revenue gives me an exchange rate advantage living in China. So, that's it for today. See you in the next video.